The heroine he draws is the very colleague he envies the most. An innocent girl as portrayed in his comic. He plans to defile her success with the filthiest strokes of his pen. But deep down, he knows. This drawing isn't born from desire, but from a poison called jealousy. A helpless rage at his own mediocrity. And an anonymous commission he is about to receive will turn that anger into real killing. This is Kong Tanjin, a comic assistant living in the shadow of his genius manga artist sister. With only average talent, he barely makes a living by teaching. When a colleague's manga finally gets approved for serialization and is about to debut, Kong Tanjin's jealousy reaches its peak. The commission pays well and the requirements are vague. So he pours all his resentment toward his colleague into his pen, turning her innocent heroine into a depraved slut. The thrill of creation is short-lived. His colleague soon discovers the infringing drawing and calls the police. Kong Tanjin is caught on the spot. In the end, it is his genius sister who steps in, using money and influence to settle the matter. The incident shatters Kong Tanjin's pride, and he loses his job. But his sister finds him another way out, sending him to the studio of a legendary manga master as a colorist assistant. But the new workplace quickly becomes a new kind of hell. The chief assistant, Chen Haijian, nitpicks everything he does. The heavy workload gives him tenosynovitis, leaving his wrist in constant pain. Another assistant, Entai, is an odd, socially awkward otaku. He shows Kong Tanjin a mysterious website called 5 Seconds. The platform is the dark underbelly of the normal world, filled with commissions involving brutal violence. And the payouts are outrageously high. The content crossed every possible line. Then the final straw arrived. The man he secretly admired ended up with the very female colleague he envied the most. The world suddenly felt like a cruel joke. Pain and humiliation pushed him into the abyss, and he logged onto the 5-second net. To make quick money and escape all of this, he accepted a commission worth 400,000 yen. The request was to draw 6 one-year-old babies, committing bloody, violent acts. He finished the drawings while fighting back nausea. Money soothed the wound, but it fed the demon inside him. When he handed the compensation to the female colleague, she unexpectedly chose to forgive him and even encouraged him to keep working hard. Her decency only highlighted his own ugliness, and he fled back to the dark web again, among people even darker than himself, seeking a twisted sense of superiority. A user named Hamyao contacted him. He made no specific request. He only asked one question. Who do you want, Dad? He claimed that only by turning extreme pain and hatred into art could it become something truly meaningful. Under Hamyao's manipulation, Kong Tanjin spoke the name of his female colleague. He turned all his hatred into inspiration and worked without sleep. He drew a scene of her being brutally dismembered. Hamyao showered it with praise. That recognition from the darkness gave Kong Tanjin confidence for the first time. A few days later, terrible news arrived. The female colleague had died mysteriously, and the state of her body matched the drawing exactly. A real killer was turning his drawings into blueprints for murder. Kong Tanjin was overwhelmed with fear. The police began investigating the site and traced it back to him. Under immense pressure, he didn't break. Instead, it gave birth to a cold, calculated plan. He needs to find a scapegoat before the police close in. The target is the creep who showed him the website, his co-worker, Entai. At a studio dinner, he pretends to be friendly with Entai and gets him drunk. Then, under the pretense of taking him home, he slips into Entai's room and logs into the 5-second net using Entai's computer. He deliberately leaves clear IP traces behind. The plan seems flawless. The next day, the police raid the studio and take away Entai, who has no way to defend himself. Kong Tanjin even takes the opportunity to recommend the artist he admires to replace Entai's position. But he has no idea that the chief assistant, Chen Haijian, has seen everything. He doesn't believe Entai is the killer, and in a corner of Entai's room, he discovers a hidden miniature camera. The footage records the entire process of Kong Tanjin framing Entai. Chen Haijian uses the video to force Kong Tanjin to confess, tearing away his last layer of disguise. He angrily calls him a mediocre nobody living off his sister's fame. The words, "You'll never become a real manga artist," completely ignite Kong Tanjin's rage. He raises his pen and lunges at him, but is quickly overpowered. Just as the two face off in a frenzy, a dark figure drops from above. With swift, brutal force, Chen Haijian's life is ended. The person who appears is Hamyao. Hamyao wants Kong Tanjin to keep creating for him. But at this moment, Kong Tanjin only wants to escape and live in the light. Hamyao doesn't force him. Instead, he helps him dispose of the body. But what Kong Tanjin doesn't realize is that the one who truly pushed him into the abyss is not this murderous maniac, but someone closest to him. When he turns himself into the police, he makes a shocking discovery. Among the police evidence is a drawing he has never created. Drawings depicting the teacher's death. At the same time, Heimo tracked down Kong Tanjin's sister. He originally planned to eliminate the woman who had long suppressed artists. But in her studio, he discovered the forged drawing of the teacher's death. As Kong Tanjin's most devoted fan, he failed to recognize it was an imitation. The truth is, the sister's talent was not creation, but near-perfect imitation and plagiarism. She envied the teacher's favoritism toward her sister and coveted the teacher's works. So she copied Kong Tanjin's style and created that death prophecy drawing, using Heimo's hand to eliminate the teacher, and naturally take over all of the teacher's remaining works. When the truth was exposed, the sister suddenly stabbed Heimo in the neck with a pen. In the final moments of his life, Heimo formatted all his devices, erasing every trace of evidence. Kong Tanjin was acquitted and released. He confronted his sister face to face. His sister remained completely unfazed, because unless Kong Tanjin admitted he was the dark artist, no one could prove it. Confessing would mean prison. Staying silent would let his sister walk free and bury his talent and suffering forever. In the end, Kong Tanjin chose a third path. He restored all the data on his devices, then logged back into the account. For the final time, he presented all of his darkest drawings to the man he had once admired. As sirens wailed, he was placed in handcuffs. He lost his freedom, but reclaimed his one and only identity as the true author, even if it would be defined by the rest of his life behind bars.